It was 1971, and we were at A&M Records, and George was there. And that's the first time I met George. That was probably in August. And come September, he came back and wanted to ask me to work on the concert for Bangladesh. I don't know if I would like to mix it. And how do you say no to something like that?
Not many big concert events had been filmed professionally, so it was all just like the concert itself. Nobody had really done a big music benefit concert, so it was all cutting-edge stuff.
It was a massive undertaking. Now people go in and shoot concerts and on video cameras and stuff, and it's not a big deal. In those days, it was a very big deal, and we just began working on it. There was no such thing as multiple cameras being synced together and stuff like that. So each camera had their own clap sticks that they had to do, and it was a nightmare. Syncing the film up, we had 10 guys, 10 assistants syncing film up for weeks.
Oh, I'm sure, because when we did it, we weren't even synced to film. So we pretty much mixed the album without even saw it. The first time we saw it was when we saw it in a movie theater. So it wasn't even synced to film when we mixed it. So we were pretty much relying on George's memory of just like, okay, this is a good take, or let's use this take, or like Steve said, we'd listen to, the song and decided which take we wanted to use. But George would pretty much say, okay, now this guy comes out, now this, because we weren't watching it, we didn't really know what was going on and who was coming up on what microphone. It was kind of a free-for-all, Tapes came in, they were just kind of like, we were lucky we got it on tape, and here it is, find the parts and put it together,
The sound was always good. It was the picture we were always worrying about, whether it was covered, whether the camera turned off, or we ran out of film, or that was the problem.
The cameramen all started at the same time, so they all ran out of film at the same time. So when you came to edit, it did get a little difficult.
16 millimeter film only held 15 minutes or something. And so a lot of stuff we didn't cover, or it was covered by a miracle. But the saving grace was that we had the 2 shows. So we used the 2 shows and made it into one.
George knew which show or the 2 shows that he wanted to use on each song, which particular song.
I was gonna say, and if not, we would listen to both shows, and then he'd usually choose. So we went back and forth, let's pick and takes in between the different shows.
Phil being in the truck was like a good security blanket for George and for everybody. Everybody knew that it was going to sound good if Phil was in charge back there.
But he was also quite the character.
I remember he'd come in and he'd go in and out a lot. We'd do a mix, and then we wouldn't see him for an hour or 2 hours, and then he'd come in, and usually he'd come in and he'd say, I want more audience. So I remember a lot of Phil, more audience. So we'd always push, because he wanted the feel of the room, a lot of the feel of the room, which is probably more so than he would do nowadays in a mix. But he wanted that real live, Madison Square Garden sound.
It was Phil doing the wall of sound, really, but you had, all those guitar players. What was Badfinger was 4 guitars, plus Jesse had Davis, George, Eric, so 7 guitar players. You had a horn section, it was really large.
Yeah, with 2 drummers. I mean, you had Ringo and you had Phil, and
there's 2 drummers and how many background singers? There must have been a dozen.
There's a dozen of them. George would say, well, we need more rhythm guitar, and it would be like one track of probably 8 guys playing rhythm guitar, and Badfinger.
Or something.
Yeah, it was just, pick a fader, pull it up, and see what's on it, and make it gel. Hope for the best.
No matter how many jam sessions or big rock orchestras you get, and I think it's probably still the biggest one that was ever put together, for one show, playing at once, and it really shows. I mean, you can really hear it, and the 2 drummers are just thundering. Ringo and Kellner are just thundering along, and it was the wall of sound.
The tape itself captured, they recorded what was there and the excitement that was there,
It was the magic that was happening,
Yeah.
They were able to get it on tape. And the album, I think, stands up great for what it was, for being live. I mean, I got a kick out of looking at the liner notes, and they said they used 44 microphones all at once. hell, man, these mini microphones on a drum set
drum
now,
set
you
now,
know? I mean, it's silly almost,
Yeah.
you know? So, I mean, I'm not sure how we crammed those 44 tracks into either 16 or 24 or whatever it was, but
After the film was put together, I was sent to California to find out how we could get a full stereo track on the thing. So when we blew up the film from 16 millimeter, it hadn't been done before. It had not been done before. And we did it, there was no such thing as a printer that could blow it up. We had to make a printer, and the 16 millimeter format, you lose about a third of the information by the time you blow it up to 35. So, but with the 35 or especially the 70, we could get a full soundtrack on there that would make George happy. So we blew it up frame by frame. We found some old guys in Hollywood and blew it up, and they built a camera that looked like it was from the days of, you know, Thomas Edison. And we blew it up.
The big preview, it was in Los Angeles, Santa Monica, and most all of us went to that. And we were excited because we got to go and sit down and see ourselves on film, you know, in a movie, and we hadn't done much of that at all, you know.
It was fantastic. It came back to me just like it was when we did it, you know, live in '71.
It was exciting to see that film.
We were just now there trying to show what happened that day. Because the next morning, it was history.
It's a really good movie of an extraordinary event, man.
But there is something at the end that we put on the end.
it's George had such a great sense of humor. He'd always be joking around, and he'd say how people are always looking for a secret message on all the Beatle albums, you know? And so he said, let's go and give them one. So we took a little piece of something, and I'm not going to tell you what it is, but we took a little piece of something, played it backwards and put it at half speed, and it's just before the needle lifts off on the end of side 6 on the album. There's a little hidden message there. And it's 32 years now, I haven't heard a word about it, so I don't know if anybody's ever heard it or found it, but it is there.
How soon could you come out with a record after the show?
With an album?
Yes, assuming
Well, we could probably have it out maybe 6 to 10 days. It depends on how quick they can press it.
George, will you be doing extra concerts?
When the time came to release the album, then I suppose nobody really got round to addressing this issue of what happens when there is a mix of artists who have exclusive recording agreements with different labels on the same recording. And this was not the only instance of it. These cases always occur. It should have probably been foreseen, but it was all being done with such energy and speed, and all the arrangements were very, very complex, and Apple did an absolutely magnificent job in just making this whole thing happen.
You know, all these musicians came. Some of them flew thousands of miles, didn't get paid for anything. They came and did the show, all out of the kindness of their hearts. Then I spent a month with Phil Spector, produced the record, you know, in a studio till like 7 in the morning, making this record, getting the package together, and we get that ready.
And predictably, Columbia and Clive Davis, who was its president at the time, took the position that this is an album that should be out on Columbia, and I, as chairman of EMI, took the position that it should be out on EMI.
This record should have been out a month ago, really. But now, we still haven't solved the problem. But we've got Dylan, you know, Dylan is CBS, and, you know, they're cool about it, and we've got Shelter and Elektra, and all different record companies have all, you know, said, okay, right, you know, put it out. And the problem is with our distributor.
George was justifiably frustrated at this controversy between these two record companies, as indeed I was, and as I'm sure Clive was too.
Capitol, whose Apple has a contract with to distribute. They just have this distribution deal. So we're giving it to them saying, aren't you lucky, you're the company who's going to distribute this wonderful record. And they say, no, we want this money, that's not enough, we want... So, no, you don't make anything, we make it. It's for the refugees, and they say, well, they don't want to do it for cost.
So this continued for a while, and we then ultimately sorted it out in a sensible manner, I think. And it was a source of some absolutely understandable and justifiable irritation and impatience on George's part and the part of all of us. But it was, I hope, and I think it was in good humor. And if anything, it might have accelerated the process of finding some solution to this problem.
Okay, sure. The award for Best Album of the Year go to both artist and producer. Now, the nominees are
American Pie, Don McLean.
The Concert for Bangladesh, George Harrison and Friends.
Jesus Christ Superstar, original Broadway cast.
Moods by Neil Diamond.
And Nielsen Schnielsen by Nielsen.
And the winner is...
Oh boy. Here we go. The Concert for Bangladesh.
Accepting the award for the Concert for Bangladesh is Ringo Starr.
I've just got something that I prepared for this. I'd just like to say that I'm picking this up on behalf of everyone who was at the concert and everyone who put in the time, especially George Harrison, Phil Spector, Ringo Starr, Billy Preston, Ravi Shankar, Klaus Voormann, Eric Clapton, Bob Dylan, Leon Russell, Badfinger, and for Apple for getting it together. What a plug. All the best. Thank you.
Bangladesh, in the first place, was unlike any other concert. It had a highly spiritual point of view, not religious, spiritual. And I believe that the event itself was a happening, and the obvious conclusion to that would be to use the event as it was, rather than doing a picture of George, which we had done so many times. So I saw this picture, and I felt that it had the real human compassion in it, something that you can really believe and it was real about what was going on there, and the poverty and the horror of the whole situation.
Putting that starving kid on the cover of the album, that's a brave thing, that the marketing guys at Capitol were saying, are you kidding? We're gonna put this on a record album, a starving baby? That's not gonna sell any records. So what about a picture of you?
George was entirely responsible for the whole package. And so it came with the stamp of his basic intent. And so I don't think there was any question of trying to commercialize it.
In fact, I think that cover picture really worked. We cut a lot of the background. I removed a lot of the background from it, and it really said it all, the desperation of the people. And that was the whole idea, really, to really make people aware of the suffering and the texture of what was going on at Bangladesh. Barry and I designed the booklet. We cut and all the photographs. We pulled the ones we wanted to use.
There's a lot of pictures, a whole lot. And we went through them. Got the best ones out, showed them to George, he cut a few out, and then we did the booklet. I just went down and, photographed them. I was really invisible when I used to work, I wasn't in their face. I knew when to take pictures, when not. I don't think but once was we ever picked up in the movie. as being there, if that. Yeah, we were given total access, and Alan Klein got uptight about when I was photographing Dylan. He actually told me to get off stage and not to photograph him, and I told him that I was here because Dylan wanted me to photograph. It was from behind Bob. Actually, it was from behind George and Bob, but I used it for the Best of Dylan album cover. He was happy to be photographed.
The check on the back could have been very crass and, you know, and materialistic, but it was such a nice feeling to know, you know, that kind of money was raised right off the top. And then, of course, with the sale of the albums and the film and everything else, there would be a lot more. But the gate itself was impressive. It was $250,000. It was in my head. We had to finish the conclusion of Bangladesh. So we had the guitar case with the medicines and whatever, the foodstuffs inside the guitar case.
Here we go. Hi, everybody. I just called him and said I'm coming. And that's how I got on the show.
Ringo was like beyond idol for me. And so I was just really doing everything I knew to do to keep myself from being, you know, just falling apart with the nerves.
Jim Keltner, the best. And what a thrill for me to get there, and that's where we met.
It was just completely electric.
It was a celebratory event, and everyone performed so magnificently. They gave of themselves. The audience response further accelerated that process. It was a two-way street, so everyone was in a joyous state of happy celebration.
Everybody was just excited and thrilled that it went so well. Everybody had a good time with each other. There was no egos.
The vibe was wonderful. I mean, I remember people saying to me it was the best concert they ever saw.
Oh, it was an electric atmosphere. Interestingly enough, by the time of the evening show, there was a surprising amount of word of mouth that had already got out from the matinee or from the afternoon show.
We pulled the first one off. Everybody said, hey, it was great, it was great, it was great. So, you know, no problem, the second show.
To have done that and have it so well received and have it be real music. I mean, there was jamming and there was real stuff going on. It wasn't just like a spit out Beatles set that had been the way they'd have to do it before.
I think when you got there, you know, really, you were expecting the biggest rock and roll event of all times, and I think it delivered on it, you know.
And then Dylan walks in. We went, man, this is too good to be true, you know.
I remember that Dylan was wandering around the corner, and I remember watching the band. You knew that something was going on, and you didn't know what. And then when you did know what, and this roar took off, watching the band reacting to the roar. It was a very, very interesting moment.
And the great thing I remember about that moment was that Leon actually had the nerve to get up there with a bass guitar and try to follow him.
So he got up there to play by himself, and then he called Ringo up to play tambourine, then he called George up to play guitar, then he called me to play bass.
When Leon Russell played for Bob Dylan, you could see, oh, there's my bass guitar. And it was the psychedelic times, and I started painting my bass guitar. You can see this is the Klaus Voormann bass with a sun and lots of flames and stuff.
Yeah, Klaus will paint anything that's around.
Just seeing the three of those guys up on the stage together was really tremendous. I remember the feeling at that moment, knowing you were at the Garden and all these people were watching Dylan for the first time maybe ever.
The highlight was Bob Dylan getting up on stage, because we all love Bob.
if I want to just like take the overall impression, it was a good day out.
Mission accomplished. You know, everybody was really happy to be a part of it.
For me, seeing George up on stage, fronting the whole thing and doing it really well, that was, if you want to highlight, that was it.
It was a miracle, really.